What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again. And this time we are here with Peter of Pain and Hypocrisy. Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's so great to have some new Pain material to talk about today. You released two singles, Gimme Shelter and Party in My Head. Is this maybe like a good first taste or a good trailer of what the follow up to Coming Home would be? Or are these just kind of like one off sort of things?
I mean, from the beginning, "Give Me Shelter" was not even supposed to be, and "Party in My Head," I didn't even plan on writing an original song. So it's more a coincidence. I was thinking, like, now when the Hypocrisy album is done and waiting to be released, it'll be a few years till the next Pain album. So I figure, like, hey, let's put some music in between there, before the next thing will come. Maybe there'll be another song as well before Hypocrisy has time to come out. Because, yeah, I have to wait for the record company, of course, because there's zillion bands releasing albums.
Yeah, and you have a
So
zillion bands
we'll just have
yourself.
to stand in line like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, that Kiss.
So
Oh,
maybe I can spit out another one. But it doesn't really have anything to do with the next Pain album because I haven't even started writing it yet. Maybe these two songs will be featured on it, or maybe not. I don't know. So it's just too early to say. But I will start writing now while we're waiting for touring and stuff, and while we're waiting for Hypocrisy to come out and things.
for your
And let's see what happens if I spit out a couple of more songs before.
being that Pain is really like a one man sort of solo project, is it fair to say that this is a very independent sort of thing? Like, you're coming up with all the ideas, or is there still creative input from other sources in a way?
No, I mean the whole thing from the beginning was like I'm writing different kind of music than I did from Hypocrisy. I can give you an example. Like in '96, when we did Abducted album, I wrote these two Pink Floyd songs, which ended up on Abducted. At the end, that was not my choice. It was the other two guys in the band that, hey, keep it on, because they also like Pink Floyd. So that's really when I felt like I have more ideas that doesn't fit with Hypocrisy. So I had to create a band. So that became Pain, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
And with Pain, I do anything I feel like or whatever I want. I have no boundaries. I can do anything.
yeah. Well, I consider
And
Pain's
people
music.
know that. So yeah.
Well, I
Sorry,
consider.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I consider Payne's music to be very experimental. Like I could see, like people who love, your other projects enjoying the hell out of this, but I also could see like Nine Inch Nails and Skinny Puppy and KMFDM fans also appreciating this as well. Is it fair to say that like there are no rules with Payne? It's kind of just like as experiment. It's very easy to just bring in new elements into it.
Yeah, I mean, my doors are open for anything. It was pretty much the same thing as I did with Lindemann albums. I just kept on writing, but of course I had him in mind, when I was writing the music. But in the end, it's pretty much Lindemann was pretty much Pain with a different vocalist, kind of. But still, there we were a little bit more experimental. We started doing tangos and stuff like that. So I mean, uh, there's no boundaries with Pain. It can go any way.
Yeah.
It's all about the mood for the day.
Yeah. Well, I could tell too with Pain, like what would be off of the Rebirth album or Nothing Remains the Same or Psalms of Extinction. So, do you ever
Yeah.
start a new Pain album with a preconceived idea, or is there like a lot of just rolling the dice and trial and error?
Yeah, I think a lot of things has to do when you get a new keyboard or something like that. In the beginning, when I was doing Pain albums, the three first one, um, I always was buying keyboards. Now you can buy plugins with keyboards, of course, But then I bought the hardware, so I had a whole room with just I don't know how many keyboards on the walls. And every time you bought a new one, you start fucking around with the sound banks and stuff, and you found something, and all of a sudden you wrote a song on a new sound because it inspired you so much. And the sound took you to a different kind of level of writing music, I would say. So it's very unpredictable how a Pain album can come out. I never set any like yeah, this is going to be like this or that and that. I know on Rebirth, I really wanted everything to distort, and it definitely does when you listen to it today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of distortion in there.
Yeah. And it's fair to say you use modern technology to your advantage with Pain as well, right? Going from like a lot of keyboards to different
Yeah.
plugins. So what was sort of like with the latest stuff with regarding to Pain, whether it is the Coming Home album or these two new singles, what was sort of in like the gear arsenal in a way?
And these ones, actually, I was going more basic than ever. I mean, if you listen to Party in My Head, it's more rock and roll, I would say. It's a party song. Uh, with Gimme Shelter, I didn't want to go too far away from the original, but I wanted to put my elements in there uh, when it comes to distorted keyboards, more loops, drum loops going, and it's more like a machine kind of feeling to it. But with Party in My Head, it's rock and roll.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm going with this. I have no clue. I didn't think that far. I'm just going to let every song do its own thing, for the album. If I come up with an idea, I want to do something really industrial, then maybe I do it on one or two songs. And maybe next one I want to do a really party song, then I'll do it in a different way. So I can't really tell you how it's going to be because I have no fucking clue.
Is it almost like every song is representative of an emotion that you were feeling at that particular time in a way?
Yeah, I think so. Either something that you got influenced by listening to or by seeing on TV or anything. For me, I always start writing music in my head. I get a melody or a rhythm. A lot of songs starts with rhythms, and then I start doing riffs on top of that or melodies or whatever. But 95% it's about rhythm, and then melody starts popping up in my head or riffs on guitar starts popping up as well. So, and then I go into the studio and get my ideas down on guitar into the computer, and then I just fill it up with everything I can.
and does inspiration sometimes strike out of the blue, or do you have kind of like a usual method or a usual place you go to in order to gather ideas?
No, I think the longer I wait with writing music, the more shit comes in my head, and in the end, it's the whole body's vibrating and saying, "Please let me out," kind of. And I just have to hit the studio and document all my ideas.
Yeah, the longer you wait,
and then
the more
start,
piles up.
cutting around and throwing things around and so on.
I'd imagine inspiration sometimes strikes at the most inconvenient times as well, right?
Oh yeah, you never know when it's going to happen. If you sit in the car and you're driving yourself, you have to bring up your phone and start singing, and record in your telephone, so you have something to remember.
Yeah. And being that the one, because next year in 2022, Nothing Remains the Same, which is one of my favorite Pain albums, is going to be 20 years old. Can you just tell me like what was sort of like the thought process back then in 2002 in a way?
I was very much inspired by Depeche Mode Ultra album, a lot.
Great album.
At that time. It's one of my favorite albums still today. And I wanted to bring in a little elements of that, and you can hear it in some songs. But also pure rock and roll in that. It's not so much industrial in there. I think it's more, I don't know. I haven't heard it for a while, but it's definitely not as much industrial as it was on Rebirth album. I just wanted to develop together with the new sounds that I had, samplers, drum machines, or whatever, and you mix it all together and you go in and play drums on top of that and you try to melt it all together.
When it comes to playing live with Pain, does having the live members though also help you bring something new to your live presence as well, or bring in some extra elements as well?
Well, I let the musician play the way they want it, but I don't mind if they stick to what's on the album because you don't want to totally change it. But to have other people playing the bass or the second guitar or drums is good because they can let loose a little bit more. So it feels more like jamming and not just repeating what's on the album without overdoing it, I would say.
Yeah. Do you channel?
And everybody always says like, "Oh, you guys are so much heavier live than you are on albums, but I guess it's the death metal that comes out in you, you know, when you're on stage.
Absolutely. Do you channel a similar energy into your live presence as you do in your songwriting, or do you consider songwriting and playing live two completely separate arts?
It is a little bit separated, you know. If you would write something when you're standing playing live, I think it would be a little bit different kind of music. But I try to consider it also like what people like. You know, when I play certain songs, you see like if the head starts nodding all over the place, you know, like you look around, then you know, oh, they got the good groove in it. You know, there's something that's good with this song. You know, so you try to analyze the crowd a little bit on what you're playing. You know, and we always try to um, play a song or two from every album. You know, from the whole genre, because Pain has been going like in so many different ways. I mean, the first album sounds like a half-ass good heavy metal album, like Ozzy Osbourne kind of thing. Together with was trying to work with the samplers and computers and stuff, and but I didn't really have the knowledge, you know. And I don't live in a big city, so you can not go to anybody and you know, like spy on how they do things. And there was no internet. You could go out on YouTube how to make this sound or that. You just have to figure it out yourself. So the first album for me, songs are okay, but you know, the whole production it wasn't what I wanted. Actually, the first album I wanted to sound like the second album, Rebirth. And the second album I wanted to sound like the third album. So I was kind of after myself, you know, chasing.
Yeah, new ideas always come right when you're finished, and then but that's got to be good though, because you always have an idea for the next album. It's not like you're suffering through like an artist block or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you almost like when it comes to your songwriting? Has there ever been a time where maybe concepts could influence the sound as well? Because you mentioned you get ideas from watching TV or from driving. There's you take inspirations both internally and externally. Do you sometimes find that maybe concepts or lyrical ideas could influence the direction of a song as well?
Yeah, actually, my friend, he came up with this. Hey, why don't you write a song, "Party in My Head"? And I was like, ding, bingo. And then I went home. I wrote the lyrics first, and I wrote them pretty fast because I was just being honest. I just wrote what I felt about this lockup thing, you know. So that came super fast, and then I had to put music on top of it. So that was a different kind of way of what I normally do. So sometimes you do different things. Normally, you get an idea in your head, you put it down, and then you structure it as a song, and then you start putting vocals on top of it with lyrics and stuff like that. But this time I did it totally opposite. So I don't know if I'm going to do the same thing next time. I have no clue. So I know as much as you do right now.
Well, I'd imagine too, all this time of isolation and all this uncertainty and all this unrest, this has to be great fuel for songwriting as well, right?
Yeah, but I was really burned out, and for me, it was just like, oh, thank you. Now I can rest, kind of. It was really sad for everybody, around you, that are dependent on going on tour, and that made me feel even worse. That I can't help my friends, my team, and things. I always asked them if they needed money and stuff like that, but everybody went out and got their normal jobs and stuff like that. So. For me, I just saw it then, it's a good time for me to lay in bed for a half a year and just watch TV and get fat. And that's what I did the first half year. So after that, I cleaned up, the Hypocrisy album, and plus another project that I'm about to launch as well with a new singer and stuff. So plus these two Pain songs. So I think I needed this break because I was burnt out since 2015.
Yeah, everybody needs a break, and I feel like that, this maybe last year was almost kind of like the forced mental health break that people maybe didn't realize that they needed until it happened.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to see you out on the road, and you got to bring Pain to the United States. I would love to see how you bring this stuff into a live setting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But first, we got to go there with Hypocrisy, but Pain will probably be shortly there, right after.
Is there anything that ties all of your projects together in a way? Because I feel like everything is still coming from your heart and coming from your mind. Or do you almost feel like
Yeah.
everything you're involved with is almost like you're portraying a different side of who you personally are?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of different personalities in here, you know. So I guess different personalities comes out with different projects, I would say. You know, for me, it's um, death metal is super important. It's been super important for 30 years. I never give it up, you know. But also, I have this urge of, you know, exploring different places in kind of music way, you know, and I'm never afraid to try things, you know. Anything from slide guitars to like two beats on Pain, even though it's more for death metal. But so I mean, I always have my eyes and ears open. With Pain, there's no limit. It can go anywhere, you know, and that's what I like about it. It's just the moment you live in that decide what the song is going to sound like, I would say.
You ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview?
Yeah.
All right. How do you know when a song is done?
That's one of my bigger problems. You know, I never really know when to pull the brake and say, okay, it's done, enough. Especially with albums, that is the worst part. You know, with songs, you can feel like, okay, this song is done. I didn't, the vocals didn't come out as I wanted it, so I try to change, and you change again, and you change again until it feels comfortable to listen to it. You know, and the best way to check it out is to play it for other people, because then when you play it to other people, you hear all the mistakes, and you go back and you start changing it again, and then you start playing to other people, and as long as you feel comfortable what you hear together with your friends, then you know it's done. But if it's not comfortable, it's like, oh shit, this part didn't sound good, and you're going, oh fuck. But you go back and change it until you feel comfortable to play it for people, you know.
Yeah, that was a good answer. That was very articulate. I'm glad I didn't get the when it's mixed
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. No, the mixing is a never-ending story. I don't want to get in there. I don't know if there ever will be a perfect album mixed for me, you know, that I'm involved in.
Yeah, I don't think there should be such a thing as a perfect album. I think what's great about the Pain albums too is that they kind of capture a moment and they really capture emotion.
Yeah,
Like what I find so great about Pain is that I don't need to analyze and interpret every song to know exactly what you were feeling at that particular time. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a very
yeah,
upfront about who you personally are.
yeah. Exactly. That's good that you mentioned that, because I don't want to. I mean, anyone can analyze how until they puke, you know. But what's the point? I'm just doing my things at the moment, and I'm proud of what I'm doing at the moment, you know.
Do you find it maybe like the longer you work on something though, the harder it is to sort of like capture that moment in a way?
Yeah, you kind of drift away because if you spend a month on a song, you're not in the same mood as when you started the song, and 30 days later, you kind of changed a little bit still, you know. So yeah, if you can finish it off in a week tops, you know, then you still kept the moment that you had in mind, you know.
Yeah.
After that, it start drifting off just to make it work, kind of thing, you know.
I would have thought that a week would be too long. I figured like a lot of artists, I've started the week off on a great note and ended it on a very shitty note and vice versa. Like I always thought that you would want to feel the same
Yeah,
way when you finish a song as you do when you start it.
yeah. I mean, Party in My Head, the lyrics went, I don't know, half an hour. I was just writing everything I was feeling, you know. And the music after that, it was actually easier to write music on top of vocals, of lyrics. I never really did that, so maybe that's a new thing for me to do, to try to explore.
Yeah. And looking forward to hearing more. So before we go, I want to thank you so
Yeah,
much for your time. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with Pain with these two singles? Like when we could be getting a new full length Pain album, please.
yeah, yeah. It shouldn't be too long. I'm hoping like the first half of next year to have an album out, you know, because now when we're still waiting to go on tour, which will be next year sometime, because everything is booked up the ass. we might have something in October in Europe, but I know we definitely have something in spring in North America. So with Hypocrisy, but I want to be done with the next Pain album before that. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but that's what I want. So I will start writing now because everything else is done and it's just waiting. You know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Peter. Everybody, we are here with Peter of Hypocrisy and Pain. Be sure to check out the new Pain singles, Give Me Shelter, the Rolling Stones cover, and Party in My Head. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.